And we are live.
Oh,
Hello.
Ari!
It's always a surprise, isn't it? When,
Yes, it is.
especially your end, because you don't see what's happening my end. I've got all the notifications. But
Mhm.
hello. I'm very
Mm.
excited today. I'm always excited for my B2B Live Lounge because I do have the most wonderful guests on. And this week, I'm honoured to have the wonderful Mick Adams on my B2B Live Lounge, who I met on LinkedIn, surprise, surprise, and have also met in person, which is also very lovely. Um, Mick, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, um, I'm I have an international sales and marketing career of about 30 years working for companies where I got actually introduced to LinkedIn. And from there, I kind of decided I wanted to be more involved in the social media landscape, and then from the angle of consultancy, training, and coaching kind of stuff. So I've been on LinkedIn since April 18, 2004. So I celebrated my 20th LinkedIn anniversary this year. And I've been doing LinkedIn training consultancy for the last 15.
Wow. I mean, when I joined LinkedIn, which is so I think I joined LinkedIn only 7.5 years ago.
Okay.
And you were one of the first people I stumbled across, if you like, on LinkedIn. I thought, who's this guy? He's great. And you immediately reached out and said, let's have a chat. Because you must have seen I was
Yeah.
a LinkedIn trainer, obviously very
Yep.
green around the gills back in those days. And you were so welcoming and friendly. And I just thought, wow, if this is what being a LinkedIn trainer is about, I'm in. I'm definitely in.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
I
you're
mean that's how it's supposed to go. I mean, we're not competition. We're all big and huge friends that live in all different kinds of places, do all kinds of different things with and around LinkedIn, and we make it interesting for each other.
we absolutely do. And I love that we're not competition because there are so many people out there who need our help. But there are also many people who need it in different ways, from owner
Exactly.
managed businesses to entrepreneurs to job seekers to huge
Mhm.
corporations. And that's what's so brilliant, isn't it? And we can all share our experiences and our knowledge together.
And the nice thing is, we all bring our backgrounds with us to this LinkedIn community that's a worldwide community, and that makes it even more interesting because everybody comes from a different background, and it's always nice to learn how it works in different backgrounds and different functions, and you know y- there's learning points in there, and that makes it great. I find the LinkedIn community worldwide that I'm connected to, it's just plain old wonderful.
I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't agree more. And the business associations, obviously, that grow from LinkedIn, but also the friendships. And it's just
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you had Guy recently on your show, and I mean, we started chatting, and eventually we got to meet each other, and I would consider Guy to be a personal friend today because of LinkedIn, and the same is happening with people like yourselves and other people around the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible. And I always say to my friends, I could go to pretty much any country in the world and there would be somebody there who will host me if I need that, which is wonderful. Um, Great. So, Mick,
Mhm.
you obviously do LinkedIn training. You also do kind of other things peripheral to LinkedIn, business training, employee advocacy, which we will obviously be talking about. And this is, I think, where you and I have sort of really come together
Oh,
because I've moved
right.
into this area of employee
Mhm.
advocacy and realized that you did it too. And I've obviously been following your posts, following what you do, and
Mhm.
talking to you about it. You have been very kind and generous and helped me with my book, which isn't out yet, but it's coming out this year, which is very exciting. Um,
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving it your time. But one of the problems, I suppose, that I stumble across when I'm talking about employee advocacy is basically what it is. For those that don't know, it's getting all of the teams, isn't it? All of the employees enthused and excited and posting on LinkedIn and being advocates of the company page. But how do you convince a company that employee advocacy is going to help them?
Well, I go back to the old adagio that your employees in the real world are your best advocates anyway. I mean, they talk about the company to their friends in their spare time, and so on. So why not take that voice and also carry it over to social media in the wide sense of the word, not only LinkedIn, but that it could be Facebook, it could be even TikTok, and so on. So it when you talk to companies and you say, well, your employees are already talking about you as a company to their friends, they all have professional networks, they all have friend networks. Why not look at them and talk to them, convince them to ask them is also a good question, but to help with carrying out the spirit and the culture of this company. And when you then look to companies and you say, well, how many followers do you have on your company pages, whether that's on Facebook or that's on LinkedIn, doesn't really matter as far as I'm concerned. And then if you make that calculation with you've got how many employees and how many typically do they have people in their network. And if you put that next to the company page, you'll see that your company page is basically maybe only 10% and your employees reach about, 100%.
Mm.
So I think it's showing the numbers of channels, but then you also have to convince the employees to join this advocacy program, and it's not a one-way system. It's too often seen by many people and many companies as we as a company post on our company page and we're going to ask all the employees to share in whatever sense and they want to do this, but they share it into their network. And the first question that I often ask them is, what's in it for them?
Mm.
Why should they? Because if there's nothing in it for them, they're never going to share. Maybe they'll do it once and twice. But it's if they see what the benefit is, if there's something in it for them to share, and they get feedback from the company about what they are actually contributing, it's really amazing how easy it is to convince companies and their employees to join forces in terms of carrying out the culture, the employer brand. And we're not here to sell. So we're not trying to sell stuff. We're just trying to tell people who we are, why we're here, what we are, that we're a fun group of people, and so on.
Absolutely. I love that we're not here to sell. And
Actually, if I may, I want to ask what I do is I most of the time start out when I talk to a company and ask them one very simple question. Are you a good company and fun company to work for?
the
Most
response
people,
is
the response is most of the time, no, we are a very good company to work for. It's a lot of fun. I said, well, why don't you take that momentum to start, you know, your employee advocacy program? Because you have a lot of good things to say. You got a lot of things to carry out. And if your employees think the same, then you're on the road with an advocacy program.
brilliant. That's so true. And I always say that when you're running an advocacy program, it's important that you're creating the culture within the company that
Yeah.
people want to partake in it, because you can't make anybody do it, obviously. But also, if they want to do it, it's going to be so much better if people are
Yeah.
embracing it, talking about it in the
Yeah.
office. It's
True.
part of the culture of the
Mhm.
company. Then what's not to like? And it
True,
sort of,
true.
it kind of grows, doesn't it, in a very positive way.
But I think another important thing in this whole setup is it's a company wide thing. It's not just marketing asking people to be the advocates or the ambassadors. It's management contributing and actively participating. It's marketing participating because you know what this is. I'll share a secret with you. Nobody's on this line anyway, so nobody will know. But one of the things that I've noticed is that the people in charge of the advocacy programs are oftentimes the least active ambassadors.
Mm,
And I'm
that's
like, how
interesting.
can you do that? Your role is one of leading by example.
Example. Yeah.
I mean, you make your CEO lead, you make your employees come on board, but as an the executor, if I can put it that way, if that's a good English word, but as the person behind the program, um, you've got to lead by example and show people how it's done.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
And while
Yeah.
nobody's listening, I'll share another secret. Is
Sure.
whenever one of these companies comes out with a customer case, the first thing I do when they highlight the social media person that runs the program is I go to their profile and I check out how much they're actually sharing. And
Mm.
sometimes you really don't want to know this answer.
Yeah, it's
And
and I also I find it really interesting because it's usually, I mean, from my perspective, I'm sure yours the same. It's usually the marketing team or manager or
yeah,
business development, perhaps that pulls
true.
somebody like us
Yeah,
in to go and help
yeah.
and bring in all this new learning. But
Mhm.
again, as you say, they're often the ones whose profiles are really not. There's nothing there. There's nothing to see, and they're
Yeah.
missing a massive, massive opportunity.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's just the thing is that I think the role as being the how would I say the lead by example, the champion, whatever you want to call them. I think the idea is they need to walk the talk themselves, and that's oftentimes when when it falls on its face, because if I see everybody else share and they are not, or the CEO is not, yeah, you're not going to motivate your employees. I'm sorry. It's going to take a while, but after a while, people are saying, well, if they don't do it, why should we?
No, I agree. Absolutely. I agree. So, in
Um,
terms of, let's have a look at, say, the marketing department in a company or the marketing manager. Hopefully, there is
mhm,
one in the company at least. What their role, let's say, is to create the content to go on the company page for then the employees to advocate. How do we
mhm.
ensure that that content is the sort of content that your employees actually want to talk about and mention and
Well,
repost?
yeah. I I think every company I've done this at, I have insisted that they create a group of different people in the company that are not marketing to create and come up with content ideas and actual content, because marketing knows how to rewrite it and format it and word it and whatever, but they don't oftentimes come out into the field. They're not with the boots on the ground, and other people are. So let's in my construction, I always go for company employees creating the content for the company page, but it's marketing who actually does all the legwork and posting. Because if they created that content, those employees, guess who's going to share it? The employees who created it. Well, and it'll be what they want to share. And there you gotta put together some, yeah, call it a work group, whereby these people work together on content, whether you do this in a group Facebook group, LinkedIn group, whatever you want to do, or you do this face to face in a meeting room. You have a bi-weekly content meeting, and from there you go. You bring together the content that the people have used, and the marketing who then says we'll turn it into real posts.
Absolutely. And things like, so I'm working with a client at the moment, and one of the CEOs and one of the heads of department are going to a conference next week.
Mhm.
So I've been tasked with, because the marketing and the social media team are flat out. So what I've offered
Okay.
to do is create a structure of posts that they can post, which are personal
Mhm.
posts, getting ready to go,
Mhm.
the kinds of posts that they can be posting while they're at the
Mhm.
conference, on their way home, and trying to really maximize the
Mhm.
whole experience for both of them. And I think because we come in and expect these companies to sort of jump on what we're doing because we know it works and it's fantastic, but of course there's always
Mhm.
a time element, isn't there? So
Yeah,
I think any support that anybody can give each other within an organization has got to be
true.
valuable, and that's exactly
Yeah,
what you're talking about. So marketing
yeah.
and social media helping the employees write their posts, I think that's just brilliant. Yeah.
And vice versa, is employees writing content for or providing at least the base of content for marketing to create posts for.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, and giving
Yeah.
them the ideas.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, employees are confronted or are in front of clients, so they see what's happening, and they know what clients kind of would want from a company and a company page. So if they can contribute, and most employees don't know how to write, but if they provide at least the baseline, then you're halfway there. Marketing can write. I'll share an example with you. Is I worked for a company that ships that transport containers,
Hmm.
and marketing, they sit in an office in Antwerp, and they created content, but it wasn't very exciting content. So at one point, what we did, we decided that on every ship that is sailing the seas, that goes into ports, there is at least a few people there that have a smartphone. And what we did is we taught these people how to take pictures of the places they go to, and the things they see. And the only thing they had to do was take a picture on their smartphone, send it in, maybe a couple of words around the picture, and marketing would then turn that into posts for the company page and could talk about certain things. And guess what? They all became ambassadors. And these
Brilliant.
people live on ships. These are people, those are sailors actually taking pictures.
Fantastic. I love that. And that it
And
personalizes the brand, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. And the marketing manager was happy because they got content.
Mm.
And they got content that they wouldn't otherwise see because these marketing people are sitting in that office. Two is they see real things in the real world. They have people making and contributing to the content, which they also will distribute. So, it's just a matter of putting those teams and working efforts together. And this can work in a three-man team. This can work in a larger company.
Absolutely. Yes, it can. It doesn't, you don't need a whole load of people. And as you say, three, two
No,
is fine. It all works.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
oh, wonderful, Mick. Yes, no, it's this is all brilliant. And I'm just going to take a pause actually, because we have a
Okay.
comment that says, "This is brilliant," from the
Thank you.
wonderful Jane Handforth, who's on the west coast of Canada, listening in. Hello, Jane. And I know Melanie Goodman is here, but she hasn't made it. She's not commenting, but I know Melanie's here. So hello, Melanie. I don't know who else is here. And I have a confession to make that I'm actually not physically on purple sofa today. I am remotely somewhere else. Waleed, yes, of course. Please do post any questions you have for Mick. Post them in the chat, and I will ask them. Thank you, Waleed. That's fantastic. Because Mick is just full of the most amazing information. So while we wait for that question, I have another question for you, Mick.
Right.
Looking at companies and company pages and how companies use employee advocacy or how they don't, obviously, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see companies making with their company pages?
Well, it's not necessarily with the company pages, although it has everything to do with employee advocacy.
Mm.
Is they ask employees to contribute. They ask employees to share content, but they don't tell the employees what the result is of their efforts. So again, I had a training today, and some of it involved employee advocacy, and the marketing was in the room, and I said, "Well, have you shared with the other employees that are your advocates what their likes, comments, and shares have actually contributed to the increase in reach of your posts or the increase of engagement of your posts?" And they looked at me like I came from Mars, I guess, or from Pluto, because like, why would you want to do that? I was like, well, that's part of the motivation. People want to be recognized for efforts that they are doing and contributing to. And if you don't tell them, after a while, they just go away because nobody tells us what's happening. But if you keep those statistics open and you talk about them, you open the field to the to understanding what employee advocacy does. And that's often, for me, that is the biggest mistake that you can make. That, of course, one of the other mistakes is just posting content on a company page that is of no value for the employees, because the first question you need to ask, if you put a post on LinkedIn, on a company page, or even on Facebook, it doesn't really make any difference. The question you need to ask is, what's the value for them in this post, for them
Mm.
sharing this post? If the value is, they talk about the company, maybe that's not good enough.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And it's like you said at the beginning, each employee needs to know what's in it for them. Why should we
Yeah.
be doing this?
It,
And in fact,
the,
when I used to do this in hospitality, I used to give prizes for the
yeah.
most
Mhm,
engaged posts. At the
mhm.
end of the month, we used to give bottles of vodka and bottles of gin to the which were quite a low cost to the employer. Um, for the most engaged posts, but it's more than that. There's many more benefits, of course, that each employee can get.
Yeah,
Um,
but you need to stay away from these pitfalls, though,
yeah,
and
I
it's
think that's
little
really
work.
helpful. Yeah, but I think a lot of employers are quite nervous about sharing their results with their employees. But you're
Yeah.
100% right that
I,
this is
I
what's
think
going to
there's
spur.
another pitfall.
Mm,
I think there's
nice.
another big pitfall, though, which is you need to provide training to your employees
Mm,
about how the platforms that you want them to be employees on actually work, and how you would like them to share what you want them to share in the advocacy program, other than asking them for their input. But it's a matter of training. People don't assume that people know how to share, repost with ideas, create new posts. What should they be using? There is a need for training, for education of your own employees. And you don't need to always an outsider. It's nice because you get an external view, but tell your people what you hope that they will be doing, and teach them if they don't know, and
yeah.
don't assume they know.
No, don't assume anything. Which actually brings me on to, we've got another question. Actually, we've got a question from Waleed. Maybe this is something we could slightly restructure. So Waleed's asked how you charge for advocacy services, and I think the initial part is the training, isn't it?
Yes. Yep. I think it's that there's a I think that one of the things is you set up the training for employees, which means um, scale up, you optimize profiles, both personal and company profiles. That's one thing. And two, you teach them how to use the the platforms that you want them to be active on, or that you want to use in your advocacy. Three, you teach them, how to share what you want them to share, and so on. And then the second part of what you could charge them for is consultancy around, we'll make sure that the flow from getting input to the post being put out on the pages, that is in my opinion, more of a consultancy type of approach, where you sit in on the meetings every week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, that they select as a meeting time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So it's the initial training. I always say it's in two parts. When I started
Mhm.
doing this, I was going into companies doing a day's training. Everybody was really excited. They would, they'd see results on the day because I'm there making them, well, not making them, but guiding them, nurturing them to do
Yeah.
things. And they would say, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing. Wow. And then I check in a couple of weeks later and nobody's doing it.
Yep.
So this is where the part two comes in, the consultancy part.
Yep.
And depending on the size of the company, depending on their budget and their needs, it will depend on how much consultancy and support they need. But there's nothing like a LinkedIn group with somebody going in and congratulations, somebody's just posted for the first time, woohoo! And everybody jumping on the post and
Yep.
creating that buzz around the whole program.
Yes. Yes.
And I
Yes.
definitely think it needs that second part. I don't think it can work
Yeah. Yeah.
without it. You need, and I
True.
think, selling our own services, Mick, obviously, but I think somebody external is the right person because they come in with a new
You
energy.
bring it. Yeah. You bring a different point of view. You bring the point of view from the outside, how the rest of the world looks at this.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. So, Waleed, I hope that's answered your question. We have a question from Kim Willis, who's joined us from the south of England. Hello, Kim. What's the smallest size company that you can be, that an employee advocacy program works with?
That's simple. There's going to be two of you.
Yep,
I mean,
I
of
agree.
course, it could be. I mean, it makes more sense if there's more employees, but theoretically, with two people in a company, you could do it with two people. You have a company page, you have your personal profiles. The whole system can be set up for a two-person company, I guess. A one-person
Yeah,
company would be a little difficult, but for me, two people and above.
two's enough, isn't it? Yeah, but the kind of the more the merrier in a way. But yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. If
And even
there's
on
only two of you, you look at ambassadors outside your company, your friends or people that you do business with, and you make them your ambassadors, and it becomes a larger group of people who support you.
yes, absolutely. Your employees, your not your employees, sorry, your clients, previous clients, etc., etc.
Suppliers.
Suppliers. Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. We're an echo chamber here, Mick. But I agree. Anybody who is vested in the company can do this,
Mhm.
and they can be encouraged to do it. So
Yeah.
yes. Mick, we've only got 2 minutes left. I can't believe how this
Oh no.
always goes so quickly. It's been
Yeah.
amazing. So thank you. And I do have one final question, the crunch question, which I ask all my guests, um, is can you give us, the audience, the people who are watching, people who are listening to the podcast, 3 takeaway tips that they can take away today and action?
Okay. I think number one, if you want, if you set up an employee advocacy program, look at the training everybody needs to get up to speed on using the platform that you have. Two is make a group of content contributors that are not only the marketeers, but also people that are on in other departments that want to join that content creation move. And three is close the loop when you use advocates, so they know what their efforts lead to. People want to know what the what contribution have they made, what's the difference they have made. Those are my three important tips when it comes to employee advocacy, I think.
I love those, all three. So get them trained, get some contributors, and that, I think this is really important actually, is to get a smallish group of people
Yep.
who are happy and confident to write content, which can be rewritten and restructured, and then close the loop. I like the phrase, but keep people informed, so
Yeah.
they know the impact of what they're doing, and that will drive them forward. Mick, Adam, thank you. You have
You're
been
welcome.
amazing. Always an absolute pleasure to talk to you about employee advocacy. We could talk all day, couldn't we? I think.
Yeah.
We will. I'm going to ask you one more question. Where can people find you?
The simplest way to find me is on LinkedIn, of course. And second of all is my website, or my company's website, which is vanguard-leadership.be. But I think if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll find me there, and you can go from there contacting me. I have all the ways to contact me there.
Brilliant. And one of the wonderful things about you, Mick, is you are very, very responsive on LinkedIn. You will always reply to messages very quickly. So you're a true
try
advocate.
to.
True advocate.
Yes.
Brilliant. Mick Adams, thank you so much. Please, next week, come and join the B2B Live Lounge. It's at the usual time at 3 p.m. Thank you for bearing with us with the different links, and we had some interesting tech issues this week, but it is what it is, and we got there, and that's the beauty of live, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And thanks, guys, for joining us. I'm going to play us out with a bit of music because that's the way we roll here on the B2B Live Lounge. And here we go. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Mick.